Would love to hear. What poem do you think you're going to read?
So I think I'm going to read a poem that's called Self-Portrait as a Tall Person. And I'd like to share it because a few things. Again, in the way that I learned poetry in school, it was very kind of serious as well, right? And in diving into like workshops, and when I moved to New York, going to a lot of poetry readings, listening to like spoken word, I realized that there's a lot of humor in poetry, and I love that because I think humor is so essential to so many parts of life. And I think this is kind of a funny poem, but also because, so this was a prompt as part of a workshop. So it was write a self-portrait as something poem. And I did not expect what came out of it, which I often find to be a hallmark of the writing practice. And one teacher once told me, he was like, yeah, sometimes you have to get out of the way of the poem. Or like you think you're sitting down to write about something, and then something else comes up, and that's what needs to be said. And again, that's kind of like retiring the analytical, logical, rational, controlling part of the mind and letting the more like creative, instinctual side take the lead. So I found that that was my experience here. All right, so self-portrait as a tall person. As a tall person, I could reach the can of olives on the very top shelf at the grocery store. No balancing act on an upside-down shopping basket turned stepping stool, a miniature polymer stage, pliable and highly unreliable. No fear of slipping off the tip of my toes and knocking down 56 glass jars of $7 olives that will undoubtedly domino into the oil section and unleash an extra virgin tsunami, frothing with shame and stuttering apologies. Every time I stare up at the holy grail, salty, pitted and packaged, I am invested with a mission to ask an average-sized soul if they might be so kind as to please grab 2 of the store brand cans for me. You see, I am what is politely called petite, and surprisingly, being crowned with a French adjective doesn't elevate me high enough to reach what I can't. I measure cans and cannots in inches and feet. Mine are only size 6. I used to feel sick with shyness. Some days, the lack of highness commands I stick out a hand, wave at a grocery shopping man. Would you mind? Sure. As simple as syrup. The silver lining on my shiny can gleams on my face. But I do not smile with the satisfaction of my prize, nor bare teeth in anticipation of the perfect appetizer, both juicy and firm, that makes me feel sorry for the sorry lost souls who hate olives like I can't even be around them. Well, you must also hate kittens and the soft caress of Sunday morning sunlight. No. I grin at the flavor of asking and tasting a response, of stretching not upwards but outwards and receiving a hand. Asking for one isn't as painful as it sounds. I already have 2, but 3 is company, especially when you feel tiny. Some days, I give up. I look up longingly at the olives, an inverted Juliet. I realize this is how Romeo must have felt, hands and heart dangling. But I do not climb the wall of silence. Most days, I walk along its towering line that I sheepishly toe. Gagged by its thickness and height, hidden in plain sight, muted in both grocery store neons and daylight, I live in the deafening pitch of this self-made rampart. And most days, hungry words break knuckles on its bricks.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, my mind is blowing. Oh my, there are too many things there. I can't even, there's so much spoke to me too. So on top of the language just being mind-bogglingly beautiful and moving and powerful and so like precise and amazing. And also we were talking about like it just spoke to me because I'm 5'1". So I usually I climb the, the things. And it was just such a mixture of like also comes some kind of like sadness, that feeling of I used to feel sick with shyness and that idea of being small and learning to expand and to recognize that you are more than your body, and also to be able to ask for help, and like just beautiful. Thank you, Naaz. I'll let you jump in because I could keep going and I'm starting to cry, and it was also very funny.
I felt like I was in the mind of you, or like the author in that grocery shop, and I like that. I love reading and hearing poems where it's like I'm taken on the journey as that poem is happening. It's almost as if like I can close my eyes and it's like a little video playing. It's the only way I can really relate to it. Yeah. And it's like a little movie, and I can see every like little action that you spoke of. And even in the moments where it was just like kind of thoughts, I even saw those. Yeah. And I love that. Amazingly written. I love the play of words, the feet, and then talking about the feet. I love that. I eat that up as a poet. That shit drives me insane. I get off on that shit. I love it. I love seeing like, because like that kind of stuff, like, picking like, because you don't need to understand poetry to like pick up on things like that, and it's like you can appreciate a language and you can appreciate an artist for picking when to put a word, where to put a word, because that is genius. I love that. That was amazing. Thank you for sharing your word.
Totally. Yeah. You're talking about, it's like a total exercise in attention and awareness. And I was like, I don't want to miss anything. And I'm just like totally focused in, and had this, I can't describe the feelings. It was like a feeling like it was grounding too. And then we were talking about like breathing, and I just felt like just like flowing along with you. And yeah, it was powerful. How does it feel to read it? Like, how did it feel to share it and read it out loud?
Yeah, it's a different experience every time. But this one really, I realized, I think like after writing it, it really breaks my heart. Like and it's like, in relating to like my own experience in that, what's being described, but almost like, seeing it as somebody else's experience. And I think that's the beauty of the writing practice, is getting to like have that hindsight on what you're feeling, and have that like self-compassion and like empathy for, self-empathy. Because again, when I was reading it before earlier today, because kind of like, pick whatever poem I wanted to read. And I was like, wow, like this is really about, I mean, I knew it was about like the difficulty to express, which a lot of this book is about, like, which is why I think I write. I have a blockage with like the spoken part, and my whole poetic journey has been through like working through that blockage. So I kind of knew that poem was about that, like not, daring to like ask for help, but something that really came up, which seems obvious, was like, it's literally like playing small. Right. The silencing of self and not asking for help is like, oh, I don't want to like bother anyone. And that has been such a pattern like in my life in those like small ways that reading it again, I was like, oof, yeah, I feel that. So